It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here. Today on the big program, lots to get to, lots to talk about. Our weekly panel hour, all of the insanity, the fun, the craziness, where we are as a nation, front and center, from the crying kid in Kenosha to what's going on down in Georgia, to, hey, we finally got some infrastructure money to be spent. And, oh, by the way, we could be starting to throw some of those January 6th folks in jail for, a little bit longer than 5 minutes. About damn time. And here to go through some of the top topics of this week, I've asked our all-star panel of Rich Ojeda from No Dems Left Behind, Sarah Burris from RawStory, and Laura Packard from Healthcare Voters. Guys, thanks so much for taking time for us.
Good morning.
So let's jump right into the middle of the craziness of this week, the Rittenhouse trial. Sense of where this is going, thoughts? Let's start with you, Laura.
Well, I think this is another opportunity to see whether justice is served in this country, whether people that murder other people get away with it or not, because the judge likes the way they look. So, are we going to hold him accountable or not?
That's an interesting question. And what's weird to me is the judge seems to, every time the prosecutor would open his mouth, to kind of just shut him up and break his flow. And it seemed like, maybe he was going to adopt the kid and end the trial right there. Sarah, your initial thoughts?
It does seem like that. It seems like the judge, there are a couple of rulings that he made that I understand why he made him. There are a bunch of other really weird, random comments that seem to come out of nowhere. At one point, the prosecution was asking him about guns and bullets, and all of a sudden the judge chimed in and started talking about different kinds of bullets. And I was like, I'm sorry, you're not a witness in this trial if you're going to be the judge. You get to be one or the other. Then today he started going off about how he hopes it wasn't Asian food for lunch because something about a boat in Long Beach. I don't understand, but this guy has a history of some weird rulings and some weird trials and some bizarre behavior. And so I am just so over this guy.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Rich?
Well, I'll tell you, I have a friend of mine that's a lawyer, and he's tried many, many cases. And he's actually saying that Rittenhouse is probably going to be acquitted. It's like the deck is not stacked against him at all. It's stacked against the others. And, this judge, his actions, to actually say that you are not going to allow the people that lost their lives to be called victims, but you can call them rioters and looters and things like that. They are painting a picture. And, honestly, what I fear is that when this is over, this basically says to these white supremacists out there, this is the model that you need to use to go ahead and go out there and do what you want when you want. Yep. And you'll be able to get away with it in the court of law because we have this case to reference, and that's the way it's going to be. And that's really, really sad.
No, this is the question that I have. And the trial aside, the question is this the new normal? That if you go to a protest, you're going to have to go heavy. And if you and I get into some kind of a disagreement, you and I have words, I may just have to shoot you out of fear of you may shoot me first. Is this where we're going?
Let me tell you.
Now you're going to have body armor, right? Just to go to a protest.
No, yeah. I mean, but here, the thing that really gets me is that he walked past police officers, with an assault rifle in his hand. When do we allow civilians to just run around, especially in an event where there's violence taking place, just to run around with a weapon? This kid goes by them and they don't stop him. They don't question him. They high five him. This is absolutely sending a horrible message.
And not just an assault weapon. Like the kid bought it illegally.
Yep.
He brought it across state lines illegally. He didn't have a license for it. and then he's just carrying around the protest with police not saying one thing at all.
Yeah.
And nothing is being said about his mother. I mean, when are we going to see this mother? I mean, she's the one who drove her underage child across state lines, dropped him off with a weapon, you know, and literally, I mean, literally, people should be going down for this. His mother should be going down.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that she actually did that. I'm not 100% sure of that. I was under the impression he drove himself. But even still, to allow your kid to go across state lines with an AR-15, there's a problem here. And I guess you file that under, you know, anyone can have a child. You need a license to get a dog.
Yeah.
Well, I also want to talk about the judge, because I think that we don't look enough at judges in this country, that they often get elected with no competition. And that's because people really don't know. It takes a lot to get a judge out of office. If you look at the Stanford rape case, that judge was terrible, and he finally did get thrown out. But there are all kinds of terrible judges all over this country, and people just don't know enough to kick them out.
No, I have a friend who's a lawyer. He says, you know what you call the last guy in your law school class? Your Honor.
Judge. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'll tell you right now, when I was almost murdered, the guy who hit me in the back of the head with the pipe and then broke 8 bones in my face with brass knuckles, every single time he did something that ended up in jail, he was released that day by the same damn judge.
But here, in looking at this, and this is where I want to come back to, because for me, is this the kind of society that we want to have, that we're no longer able to have these discussions, these arguments, these kind of even fights anymore. When I was a kid, you got into one of these situations, you got into a fight, you took your beating or whatever. Everything didn't end up with, you know, I got to now execute somebody.
Yeah, you know, I tell you right now, that's the problem that we have today, is kids rarely know how to handle things. And there's nothing wrong with handling some things with your fist. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be now. It's everybody has to go grab a weapon. Everybody has to have a gun. I mean, that's the direction that it seems like we're going, and that's not the right way to be.
Yeah, and he should have never been there.
Or somebody just gets on social media and they just completely eviscerate, you know, you and your family and everybody around you, and then, you know, the poor kid wants to kill themselves.
95% of the fights that took place when I spent 4 years in the classroom after retiring, 95% started from social media. Absolutely brutal. And these kids, you want to talk about kids being cruel? Let me tell you something. What these kids come up with social media is absolutely some of the worst things you could imagine. And it's bad.
Is this a social media problem? I mean, you know, I look at that kid, and I'll be honest with you. I look at him, and as a parent, if my kid were going to go, hey, I'm going to go into this area where I know there's going to be violence, I know there's going to be a riot, and oh, by the way, you know, I took my stimulus money and I bought this AR-15. I'm going to take this so I can go down and clean graffiti off a church. There is no way in hell I'm allowing my kid to go anywhere near that nightmare, let alone take an AR-15 and interject himself into any of this stuff. So you can say, look, you know, Jeffrey Toobin's right. He's fortunate he's not on trial for being an idiot, but he is on trial for shooting and killing 2 people. And for me, there has to be something out of this.
This kid is going to be able to also look and speak about mental issues. I'm going to tell you right now, when I was spending 4 years as a ROTC instructor, there were students in the school that I could not give uniforms to because I could not guarantee that they wouldn't be out there the next day in the middle of the 4-lane collecting money, acting like they were sergeant majors. And I'll tell you right now, this Kyle Rittenhouse is one of those kids. I can guarantee you he was always one of the volunteer kids and all this kind of stuff. I'm telling you, he's one of those kids, and he will, in the end, if they do go against him, they're going to claim some type of mental issue, and that's going to also help him out.
One of the comments that somebody made was that this is basically the young George Zimmerman, which is exactly right. George Zimmerman could not get accepted onto the police force because he couldn't pass the mental evaluation. This is the kind of kid who, you know, quit school, tried to get his GED or go to online school, and then has been trying to get into different like firefighter programs and police programs. And that was one of the things that happened, the conversations on Wednesday when the prosecutor was questioning him, where he was like, were you a member of the fire department? And the kid actually said yes. He said he was. And it's like, no, you're a cadet, where they give you a T-shirt and teach you how to do, CPR on somebody. That does not mean that you're an EMT. And the fact that he didn't understand that, or that he somehow thought that, that was a legitimate answer, it's just like, did your lawyers not prepare you for this? First of all, but really? Like, what delusion?
The mental part about that is that I guarantee you, when he went to Kenosha, in his mind, he was going to be a hero. He was going to save people's businesses. He was going to stop the looters, and he was going to end up being hailed as a hero. And everybody would say, we want him to join our fire department and police station. Yeah, guaranteed.
No, and that's the kind of mentality that most of the people I know who have the gun fetish, that's what they talk about. And I, on the show this week, I talked about the first time I remember somebody talking about guns when I moved to Pennsylvania. I moved into a real rural area, and I'm in the lunchroom listening to this guy talk in the most pornographic of terms about this new gun that he bought, and he couldn't wait to whip it out and stick it to somebody. And it was just the most grotesque kind of fetishized moment of, I can't wait for someone to break in my house so I can kill them moment. And I looked at him when he was done, and I go, you are the last person on this planet who should be allowed to have a gun.
Yeah, but that's how a lot of them are. A lot of these people, they love these guns. They want people to look at them, and they want people to fear them because they have guns. And my thing is that where were you in 2004, 2005 when we were bogged down in Iraq and we needed people? Where were you? Because back then you didn't want to pick up a rifle and man a post. But back here on the civilian side, if it means you can run around Subway and scare people while they're getting their sandwiches made, then you're all about that. A lot of these people are closet cowards.
Now, how much of this do you think is, a media culture and a gun fetish culture that created this kid? Because, I've got a lot of people going, well, he's just a child, Rich, just a child, Laura, just a kid, his tears were real. How dare LeBron James mock him for those, whatever that was.
His tears are as real as Kavanaugh's tears. He's just sorry he got caught. But these guys in their own heads, they think they are heroes. And the sad thing is that social media is putting them in front of a group of people that will tell them they are. In his own mind, he did something heroic, and there are plenty of equally unbalanced people out there that will back him up on that. I mean, didn't Zimmerman have an auction for his gun, and wasn't there somebody out there that bought it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's how screwy we are as a society. So the other question that becomes out of this, no matter what happens in this trial, whether he's found guilty or not guilty, this kid's still going to be a hero to some. And if he's found guilty, he's going to be a martyr. And out of that, probably a movement to come. So for me, all of the wrong messages that you could possibly grab from this is what's going to be front and center.
Yeah, I would say, though, the whole thing with Zimmerman is he destroyed his life. I mean, the guy may have been innocent, but he can't get a job. He can't, people are just completely tearing him apart. Nobody wants to hire him because they're afraid of him. He's very, very clearly a racist. He didn't, this wasn't just like he shot an unarmed brown kid. He then went on, talk shows and everything else and was a clear racist ass. So this is where we are now.
Yeah, the difference is this is a chubby cheek, kid, white kid, all-American white kid. I see money flowing into him. Some $2 million put up his bail. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you think, Rich?
Well, let me tell you, this is what bothers me is that, and he can sit on that stand and he can cry crocodile tears while he looks out the left and sees what the jury is looking at. But at the end of the day, he's crying crocodile tears now to try to come off like he's not a bad person. But you got plenty of videos of him inside of a bar with a bunch of white supremacists wearing a shirt that says free as you know what. And of course, imagine the families of those who lost their loved ones watching photographs of this guy out there laughing it up, having a good time, underage drinking in bars. with a bunch of racist jackaloons. You know, that's the true Kyle Rittenhouse right there.
Yeah.
Not what's crying on the stand. The true Kyle Rittenhouse is the one who's laughing about it. Yeah. And hopefully we're going to see justice served. But the truth is, you and I both know the deck is not stacked against him right now.
And now I look at what's going on down in Georgia with this Ahmaud Arbery trial, which isn't getting anywhere near the same kind of coverage. And I think partially, one, because it's a black guy who got killed, but two, I think these guys are going away. I think they're guilty and they're going to be found guilty as you know what. And I don't think there's any doubt that they're going to be found guilty, which is why I don't think that it's getting as much coverage. But what do you guys think?
No, it should be getting more coverage. But one of the crazy things that happened on Thursday was that the prosecutor started talking about how he didn't like that there were black pastors in the courtroom. The thing about this community is it's 55% African American. This is an incredibly rich, cultured community. And so all of these people of color who are elected officials are in the courtroom. You've got city council members and school board members. And yes, all of these black pastors, including Al Sharpton. And so when the prosecutor started standing up and saying, you know, I see Al Sharpton in here, and I don't want any more of those black pastors in here because I think it's prejudicing the jury here. And the judge, what was interesting is the guy then started to go off and compare it to people wearing masks of Colonel Sanders. And finally the judge was like, okay, stop. Like you're hurting yourself here.
Stop digging.
You're destroying. Yeah. And so, I mean, this is the kind of trial that they have going on there. And even though the jury is all white except for one dude, that's the part that makes me a little worried.
And that's what's really messed up is because, like you said, 55% of that county is of color, and yet they couldn't find. It's 11 to 1 white. I mean, and that's the thing. You know what? At the end of the day, you know, all they got to do is convince one. And once again, when you have 11 white people on there in an area that's 55% black, I mean, you know, and we all know that racism exists. Racism exists, and that's why they're in that courtroom in the first place, because of racism. But I'll tell you right now, when it comes to the courts and when it comes to trials like this, you know, I always have to protect yourself for the conclusion that you're not going to like.
Yeah, no, at the end of the day, I think Rittenhouse will be found not guilty. I think the two guys in the Arbery case will be found guilty. I fear that there's going to be chaos, but I also fear that no matter what I do coming this day going forward, if you get into an argument with somebody, you may have to shoot them just to protect yourself. As the old man always told me, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. Maybe this is the world we live in. I got to take a quick break right here. On the other side, I want to talk a little bit about the infrastructure bill that President Biden is going to be signing on Monday. So stick around. We're right back after this. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
There's nothing more American than workers standing up, and the union gives a voice to win. On The Rick Smith Show.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1979. That was the day workers at International Harvester went out on strike. At the time, it was the UAW's longest strike. 35,000 UAW members at 21 plants in 8 states downed their tools. For 172 days, Harvester workers walked the picket lines over seniority rights and forced overtime. They had long resisted mandatory overtime rules. Workers at Harvester were the only UAW members anywhere who still enjoyed the 8-hour day, 5-day work week. They had no intention of giving that up, especially in the industrial downturn of the period that threw over 100,000 auto workers out of their jobs. Harvester argued the company had lost $1.3 billion in recent years because of work rules. The company hoped to force a concessionary contract. But 6 weeks into the strike, the company announced a 98% increase in profits for the year. 3 months into the strike, Harvester hinted it would drop its demand for forced overtime in exchange for part-time hires that would be non-union. The company also hoped to do away with seniority rights in job bidding. Despite injunctions that limited picket lines, strikers were able to minimize scabbing and shipments in and out of many plants. At a plant just outside Chicago, striking Local 6 members marched outside company offices with a burning effigy of hated Harvester president Archie McCardle, chanting "No forced overtime." Victory finally came in April. Harvester workers stood tough for months against company attacks in a period of massive plant and mill closures across the country. They secured seniority rights in job bidding and beat back attacks against mandatory overtime. As for McCardle, brought in to slash and burn the union workforce, he was fired.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So the infrastructure bill is going to be signed on Monday. That's a good thing. Hopefully we get this stuff out the door moving quickly. And what I love is the response. The response from the Republicans is not, oh, hey, we had 13 Republicans in the House and 19 in the Senate who said, yeah, we want better roads and bridges. And yes, we want a better future for our children. We want clean drinking water and good broadband access and all of the things that are coming out of this. No. What we got infrastructure equals communism. Those commie roads. Just insane. And you go, Marjorie Taylor Greene and her nonsense. She's not the only one. You got Boebert and the rest of them who are just flipping nuts. And here to share some thoughts on just how crazy they are, our all-star panel of Rich Ojeda from No Devils Left Behind, Sarah Burris, RawStory, and Laura Packard of Healthcare Voters. Guys, I appreciate you sticking around, taking some time.
Yeah.
So infrastructure, Laura, infrastructure equals communism.
I had no idea that every day I was facing the unbridled tyranny of roads. I little did I know that I might as well have been waving a communist flag. But one thing I think is important to point out is that so few Republicans even voted for roads and bridges, things that Republicans use too. And you see people like Lauren Boebert, Colorado's embarrassment. She's parading around in a dress that says, "Let's go Brandon" on her butt, but she's got nothing to say for things that people care about, like healthcare.
Yeah. And on Veterans Day, she took a shot at veterans too, right?
Yeah, a video came out on Veterans Day where she was speaking in front of a group, and she said that it isn't her role to keep them healthy, but if it was, she would make sure they had gym memberships.
Rich, you want to jump in on gym memberships for veterans?
Well, first off, I want to say that I'm very proud of the fact that she was able to do the spelling correctly on the back of that dress. So we got to give her credit where credit is due. Seeing her come out and say something like that in reference to veterans, it's to me, I expect that of someone like her. So, but I'm going to tell you, when we're talking about the infrastructure package and we're talking about the people like the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and the Lauren Boeberts, make no mistake about it. Mark my words. You are going to see every one of those who voted no in all of the ribbon cutting ceremonies and all of the photo ops trying to take credit for the things that they voted against. And that is a problem. I'll be honest with you. In a perfect world, the way it should go is that if you vote no for roads, bridges, broadband, and things like that, then your district should not get nothing from you. Because that's exactly the way they play it. They're going to show up out there and act like they're going to take credit for everything when they obstructed every single thing that they possibly could.
Yeah.
And that is a problem that we have in this country, and we should fix it by doing just that. Because then, think about that. But Marjorie Trainwreck Greene has given out the phone numbers of all of the Republicans who voted for infrastructure, and now they're receiving death threats and things like that. Marjorie Trainwreck Greene needs to be absolutely removed from Congress. Gosser removed from Congress. These people are absolutely the worst of the worst. And the mere fact that they remain in their positions is absolutely scary.
No, I'm right there with you. But the part that gets me, and I'm with you. If you didn't vote for it, you shouldn't get anything. No bacon for you. But here's the problem. This infrastructure bill, overwhelmingly, as I'm looking at it, benefits rural communities that these people come from. So the very people who are telling you that they don't believe in government, don't want government, hate government, are the ones who are going to benefit from this, Rich.
Red rural districts are going to get more money than anywhere else. West Virginia, we're 50th out of 50th in infrastructure, roads, bridges. Southern West Virginia, the kids where I'm from have to go sit in a McDonald's parking lot to get any daggone Wi-Fi. So this is going to be huge for West Virginia. But sad thing is I can go around and I can't find nobody that supports Democrats. Everybody around here claims to be poor Republicans, which is an oxymoron, by the way, because poor and Republican don't go together. But they don't know that. And once again, I hate to say it, but that's one of the things that Donald Trump was able to do. He was able to tap into the poorly educated and convince them that he was one of them. Yeah. Sad.
It is sad. This is like a pathetic, show that we're running over and over and over again. And I'm so frustrated with Democrats for not getting out on this and talking about all of the things that are in the bill. And I think it was Al Franken who was tweeting about the bill, and he remembered whenever he first came into the Senate, and there was a new highway that he was, doing the opening for with Amy Klobuchar and then one of the members of Congress from the district, but the member of Congress hadn't voted for the project. And so Amy Klobuchar got up there and spoke, and then Franken got up there and he goes, I really can't take credit for this because I wasn't in the Senate whenever we voted on it. So I really want to thank everybody, all of the leaders here who did vote for this bill, Amy Klobuchar and Congressman, oh, wait, you didn't vote for it. And I think that's what every Democrat needs to do. Every one of these ribbon cuttings and shovel ceremonies. That's what every Democrat needs to do is say, it's interesting. I supported this, but it looks like you never did. Why are you here?
Hey, there you go. So show up, have other politicians show up in their district saying, look what we brought you, not him.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, look at Oklahoma. We have crumbling sewage systems. Sewage pipes that were made of clay 100 years ago that are falling apart. That is all going to get fixed. We have lead pipes that are going to get fixed, rural internet, all of these things. I would love to see, some of the Democrats in Congress that are from other states come into Oklahoma for some of this stuff and start talking about it. But again, this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I will tell you that Alex Mooney was one of the ones that were voting against everything concerning the infrastructure for the, COVID shots. But the very next day, he's down here in Charleston, West Virginia, at a clinic that's giving out the COVID vaccines, and he's taking photographs with all the people. And once again, it's like you didn't even vote for this, but yet you're going to come down here and you're going to act like you participated in making this happen. But once again, the Republicans, they don't care. There is no bottom to as low as they'll go.
Yeah. Now,
there's no consequences, just like what we were talking about earlier with Kyle Rittenhouse. There may be no consequences there either. There may be no consequences with Paul Gosar threatening to kill, threatening to have a coworker assassinated, but they don't pay any price.
No, and that's the sad thing about all this. And now the hard infrastructure bill is passed. It'll be signed, I believe, on Monday is what they're saying. Big ceremony, all that. And the rollout hopefully is quick so that we get some of this money moving and some of these shovel-ready projects happening. The concern now is, and my view from the beginning, I think a lot of people and maybe everyone here, is if we get the hard stuff, we're not going to get the soft stuff. The Build Back Better plan I view as dead in the water. But maybe it's possible that something comes out of it. Let's start with you, Laura. Do you see something in the Build Back Better plan coming through? Maybe something on the healthcare front? What do you see?
Well, to get this infrastructure bill passed, some of the moderates in the House promised a vote the week of the 15th on Build Back Better. So that's coming. That's coming very soon. It'll be the week of the 15th. And then we'll see. I think this is too popular. This is too important to leave out, because what good are bridges and roads if nobody can afford to be on them, can afford to go see their doctor or have the childcare to even use your roads and bridges?
No, there's a point, but here's the thing. I look at this Republican billionaire, this Ken Langhorne guy, or Langone, I guess his name is. He said on Squawk Box this week, Rich, that he's a big mansion guy. He said, I don't see any leadership in this country. Thank God for Joe Manchin. He said, I'm going to have one of the biggest fundraisers I've ever had for him. He's special. He's precious. He's a great American, Rich.
Well, Joe Manchin has showed everybody else exactly his true colors. Joe Manchin's two-faced as you can get, and Joe Manchin will crawl in bed with anybody willing to write a check. And that's where we're at right now. I'll tell you right now, we need this, and understand that the Republicans, they're absolutely going to do everything in their power to make sure that we don't have this victory, because this is a big victory if we can get it. And if we can get it, it's something that takes us into 2022 with a feather in our cap. And that's not what the Republicans want. I'll be honest with you. I am impressed that we got the infrastructure package passed that recently just passed, because I was thinking that we wasn't going to get anything. So I'm glad that we got that. And just like Laura said, I'm kind of hoping that everybody realizes that this is too big to allow it to die. I'm hoping the Republicans realize that if they kill it, it's gonna come back against them, and not in their favor.
Yeah,
One thing I want to say about Joe Manchin is one of his biggest complaints about the Build Back Better is, and I would say that he specifically singled out the child tax care credit, which everyone loves. I mean, like everyone across the board, both parties, parents, everybody loves the child tax credit. And Manchin, I swear to you, said that he didn't like it because he thought that it would build dependency. Well, a new study came out on Thursday that said that just that little bit of money would enable tons and tons of women to be able to go into the workforce who couldn't go into the workforce now. That little bit is able to help them get out of the house and away from their kids, thank God, to go make some money of their own and have their own job and build their own career. And again, like, this is Joe Manchin being so far removed from the facts and from what his own people really want and need, that he's opposing all of these things based on ridiculous data that he's just making up or bringing back from the 1980s Ronald Reagan talking points.
Yeah, I think making up is the right way to put it. For me, in the Build Back Better plan, there's a bunch of stuff in there that I think we need. The health care, the child care. I know they took the college out. There's got to be some of that. But, more importantly, we got to start taxing some of these billionaires to pay for the things that we need. And I saw the story this week that Elon Musk tweeted out, should I sell some of my stocks so I can pay taxes? Yes. And I guess he sold about $5 billion worth of stocks. The tweet alone is the reason we need to have a much different tax system, to where we're taxing the kind of wealth that is just unimaginable when you look at our billionaire class. Just that alone, to me, says we need something on the tax front.
$36 billion in one day Elon Musk made. Look, I don't care. I want these people to pay their fair share. I don't care if he says, well, I only have stock. Sell your stock. I don't care. But at the end of the day, it's time for these people to pay their fair share, because it's always been placed on the backs of the middle class. And the middle class has been disappearing for quite some time. They've went after unions. I mean, it is what it is. That's what's happening in this country. It's going to get to the point where we have the filthy rich and the dirt poor. And I'm thinking to myself, are we going to let it get to that point to where we're going to have to eat the rich, before we do something about this? But that's where we're at. And I'll tell you right now, I want to see Elon Musk. I want to see Zuckerberg. I want to see Bezos. I want to see Richard Branson. Once again, we know there's no such thing as trickle-down economics, because when their cup runneth over, they have a saucer underneath to catch it all, so they can build bigger homes, nicer boats, and go to space.
One of the things I'd love to see is if these all of these bills that are in Build Back Better, particularly the piece that would pay for all of it, if Republicans end up voting against it and killing it, and if the moderate Dems vote against it and kill it, I think we should just break it into individual pieces and then make all of these people vote against. Yeah, I don't want to raise taxes on the rich. Yeah, I don't want to fund the IRL so that they actually can do their job and get people who already owe us money to actually pay the money. Like, I think Elon Musk owes like $15 billion in unpaid taxes for some like weird thing that he avoided paying for, and now he's going to actually pay for it. I mean, there's so much money out there. We could pay down the national debt. But again, Republicans don't actually want to do that. They just want to complain about it.
But you got to understand this, Sarah, and this is a problem on the state level and the national level. If we could run a bill specifically for one thing, we want to say that all the children are going to continue getting this. Problem is that when they see a bill like that and they don't want it to last, they go in and they put more stuff in it. That's how come a bill isn't daggone 10 pages. A bill becomes 1,000 pages because they got to go in there and they got to stick stuff in. And once again, that's what they do. And sometimes they do it specifically to kill good bills.
Yeah, you got to poison pill it.
Well, also, I think we'd run into problems in the Senate because they still have not gotten rid of the filibuster. So you could get a vote in the House and then it would just go over the Senate to die.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's my fear.
Let them vote against cloture, though. Like, go for it.
Yeah, that's my fear with this Build Back Better plan. That the easy part was the bipartisan plan. It'll be interesting to see where this plays out. Last question I've got for you. Everyone's hair is on fire over inflation. I keep hearing that the sky is falling. It's the 1970s again. What are you guys hearing, Laura? Let me start with you.
Well, I mean, my grocery bills are higher. So, I mean, it's a thing. It's a real thing that we need to do something about. But I don't know how long-term a problem this is really going to be because, I mean, we stopped our economy. Our economy came to a halt during the pandemic. And as we start things up, then there's issues with the ports being jammed up with goods because all the stuff is being shipped that wasn't before, and the flip side of people finally having some power in their workplace, being able to unionize, being able to leave crappy McJobs, is that there are all these McJobs unfilled. And it's going to be a while before the people at the top recognize that they have to treat their people decently and pay them in order to get good help.
No, Buffalo is the perfect example with Starbucks. Have you been following this Starbucks story out of Buffalo where they literally brought executives in to come sweep the floor and do the job because they're now partners. They had a meeting at a ritzy hotel where they brought people out, and then they made a real slick video and through some emergency channel. They're pulling out every stop possible. And my mind was, had you treated people as partners, a year ago, 2 years ago, you wouldn't be in this mess. The reason that they don't trust you is they don't trust you.
Yeah, this is exactly what workers should be fighting for. And I'm glad to see that the guys in Buffalo are fighting for a union. You're starting to see that not just in Buffalo, but all over the country. You've got Amazon workers. You've got, everybody is really fighting for a union. I would hope that the Netflix guys, after the whole trans incident, I think the Netflix guys are talking about, why they need a union, just so they can actually have some respect from their CEO, right? Yeah. The thing about inflation is that on Thursday we got new numbers from China and Germany that showed that they've got over 30% inflation too. So this is not an isolated American incident that was caused by Joe Biden, right? Like this is something that happened. Laura's right. As a result of the pandemic, we have booked up ports that can't deliver our stuff, but we also have a whole bunch of truck drivers that aren't on the job anymore. So we have to hire more truck drivers and actually get them to the ports to pick up the goods to then bring them back to the rest of the country. And there's actually a shortage of people to help unload all of the containers that are being unloaded from the ships. So there is literally a block at every single spot in the supply chain. And that's why it's not just happening in the United States, it's happening across the world. Right. And this idea that it's because of Joe Biden, the guy's been in office for 9 months. You don't have enough power to destroy the entire world in 9 months. So Donald Trump really tried.
No, and look, you're right. The ports are backed up, and for me, this is an excellent opportunity to reshore our manufacturing, so we don't end up in this situation again. And on the truckers' part, I see there are trucks lined up waiting for the loads to come off. It's that everything's just so jammed up. It's going to take time, and we're going to have to get through it. I want to take a quick break right here. On the other side, going to talk a little bit about a new university popping up. One that's going to have free thoughts, one that's going to teach forbidden courses. Oh, the fun. Oh, the excitement. Going to take a quick break right here, right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith. Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So this week, a new university launched. Evidently, according to their tweet, they can't wait for the university system to fix itself. So they are going to build a university dedicated to, quote, the fearless pursuit of truth. That's right, truth. They're also going to teach forbidden courses in 2022. This is their words, not mine. There will be a suite of forbidden courses. Don't know what that means. I'm sure it's going to be every racist, homophobic, misogynistic kind of course you can imagine. But this is what they're going. Now, they've chosen Austin, Texas. This is the University of Austin in Texas. They've chosen Austin, Texas. And I'll tell you, I thought the reason was because, it's near the University of Texas in Austin. Austin's a fairly liberal place. This is where the academic debate would be. You're going to go head toe-to-toe intellectually with the liberals. No. They chose Austin because they like Joe Rogan and SpaceX billionaire Elon Musk. That's the reason. I cannot wait to find out what the forbidden courses are. Here to share some thoughts on maybe what are the forbidden courses, our all-star panel, Rich Ojeda, Sarah Burris, and Laura Packard. Guys, thanks for taking time for us.
Everyone.
So, forbidden courses. What could forbidden courses mean?
Well, hell, you were talking about Texas. I thought a forbidden course was critical race theory.
Oh, no.
I think this is gonna end up becoming QAnon University, is what it's gonna end up being.
But
it should be like Liberty. You don't actually get they're not accredited at Liberty University, are they?
Oh yeah. They get
Liberty
tons
gives
of money.
you a degree.
Oh, they get tons of money from the federal government. They're one of the biggest suckers of the GI Bill in this country. They have figured out how to get into the government teat and suck it dry while constantly pointing its finger back at it, saying you're bad, but give us more money.
So
yeah, and Liberty University is not.
They're not going to give you a degree, right?
No, Liberty University will give you a degree, but this is not. This is Trump University 2.0. You get a shiny piece of paper and maybe you get a free Trump steak, but you don't get something useful.
So basically, go in debt probably for the next 20 to 30 years, so that you don't even get a degree. That right there alone. The people that are enrolling in this obviously right from the start showed that they're not that bright.
But this is what this is about. This is about propagandizing. This is about taking education and I love what Glenn Youngkin said on election night. We don't want to teach children what to think. We want to teach them how to think. Well, this is teaching them how to think about what you want them to think about. That's what this is. And under the guise of, we're fighting back against the woke crowd. We're fighting back against political correctness because, hey, we've got forbidden courses. And what could be more alluring than I've got forbidden courses?
That's so absurd. What's interesting is I remember being in college and a state senator in Kansas losing her ever-loved mind because there was a professor at KU who taught a sex class, like what was it? It was like human sexuality in everyday life. And and she lost her mind over it because they were showing pictures of vaginas. And I mean, you think about those are the kind of courses that right wingers are fighting against. They've done this for a long time, and yet, you know, now they're saying that they're the victims. They're the ones who are like, oh, we want to teach, you know, all of these forbidden things. Well, you've got all these universities where you can teach these forbidden things. You've been doing it for years.
And been funding all of them.
Well, we have people that do not want to teach the real history in our schools, but yet you're going to see something like this pop up, where I can guarantee you that if this actually comes to fruition and they start teaching classes, I can guarantee you that every single class that they teach is going to be absolutely something that the average person is going to be like, are you serious? Are you kidding me? You're teaching this?
I hope you're right. My fear in this is this becomes the catalyst for the next crazy insurrectionist conservative movement, and we're even further off the deep end fringe of having a whole segment of people like Ben Shapiro running around like drug-addled rats, just trying to make a point and having everything off of a script to read from. For me, this is about taking young minds and turning them into the next Kyle Rittenhouse or the next who knows what.
Yeah, like a sports class is going to be a shooting class, and you'll have like like Herman Cain cooking 101 or right, like it's just going to be a bunch of nonsense.
Now the worst part of this is
Q.
Now, the worst part of this we saw in Texas. You've got that state representative who had a list of 850 books that he wanted to know if they were on the shelves in the schools. We're already hearing the talks of banning books in Texas and Virginia. And I've even heard whispers of we should start burning these books, guys. So we're back to book burnings.
Yep. 1953. Let's go.
I thought they used to teach Fahrenheit 451 in the classes. I didn't think they were using it as a manual.
That they are. Now, here's the weird thing, though. We're in this moment, and this is where I think there's a fight for the soul of this country. And I've been calling for Democrats and liberals and progressives to find a picket line, adopt a striker, and take a master's working class economics course by talking to some of these striking workers. Because as I've been saying for a while, the working class is the largest multicultural coalition on this planet. And if we're going to fight back against that kind of crazy, we've got to consolidate some thought in the working class that we're in this together and fighting the righteous fight for better wages, hours, and conditions, while the fringe on the right is losing their mind. But I'm looking at this moment kind of worried.
I'm actually not. I'm heartened by this idea that a whole new generation of young people is discovering unionization and fighting back against crappy employers. I do think that everybody needs to be helping every picket line worker and stepping up and doing what you can. But there is now I'm proud to see my generation and the one after us, Gen Z, looking at things from a more global and empathetic perspective. And, that's not something that you saw whenever I was young.
Yeah. There's a new report out by a guy named Richard Martin. He did this for the American Family Voices group and 21st Century Democrats, and it's called Factory Town. And his report basically goes through the fact that we've abandoned, small communities. We've abandoned rural areas, especially those factory towns that, because of bad trade policies, because of corporate greed and outsourcing, have been left behind and are now nothing more than hollow shells of what they used to be. And their argument is, look, you got to get into these places and you've got to talk to people. And this does not seem to be where the Democratic Party is right now. And I know, Rich, your group, No Dems Left Behind, are one of those groups out there trying to get into these areas and talk to these people, because this is where the fight is, in my view. Leave the idiots and the cretins who are at Start University of Austin. Leave them to be. We've got work to do.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. And what really hurts the most is that when you realize that the party that you're out here fighting for aren't supporting you. You know, we're out here trying to find good candidates to take on the Lauren Boeberts, the Marjorie Trainwreck Greens. And, you know, it's hard when you can't get the support from your party. I mean, we're out here doing everything in our power to try to increase the power that we have in the Senate and the House. I want to take away the power from Sinema and Manchin, and we can do that by adding more Democrat senators, you know, to the Senate. But it'd be nice if we could get some support, but you know, we're pretty much on our own.
Now, Laura, I know you're from, you know, somewhat of a rural area. You look at these stories and you go, yeah, this is stuff we've known for decades. This is not news. The question is how do you get to this point to where we end up going back into these communities and making a difference? Is the Build Back Better plan part of that? Will this hard infrastructure bill help that? I'm curious your thoughts.
I grew up in a suburb of Detroit on a dirt road. We didn't have cable because cable didn't come to our house. So the internet, I think, levels the playing field for a lot of people, that even in the most rural areas, you may not get very fast. You may not have broadband. It may be dial up or satellite, but everyone has some degree of access to information. But the problem is that newspapers have been gutted and trusted sources of news have been gutted. And people are angry and confused when your income has stayed flat for decades and there is no future where you live. And so Republicans are speaking to those people and offering hate. And Democrats need to speak to those people too and offer hope. And not only just offer hope, but they need to do something about it, because everybody that's in Congress right now ran on doing something about healthcare costs and prescription drugs and so on. And this is the point at which they need to deliver, or nobody will trust a word they say next time.
No, absolutely. Sarah, your thoughts?
I wish that nobody would trust them next time, but I'm worried that these people, you know, who vote in a lot of these areas just aren't paying the kind of attention that I wish they would. And some rural areas, like, I just see it over and over and over again. This is what's the matter with Kansas is about, is it's an entire group of people who vote against their own economic interest over and over and over again. They keep supporting Republicans who vote for school consolidation, who are the ones who shut down their community hospitals. They don't understand that, you know, Obama was the one who was saving community hospitals. Obamacare was the one who was keeping places open so that you didn't have to drive like 2 hours just to give birth. You know, there's so much that Democrats are bringing to folks in these areas. Nobody's talking to them. And so there's a void in that. But then there's also, you know, just outright lies from Republicans to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what, though, what Laura said, though, I mean, they know this is the perfect time to come in and start, you know, stoking the fires with hatred. You know, tell these people you don't have anything because of Joe Biden. And at the end of the day, you know, a lot of these people fall for it. I'll tell you, I walked out of the Walmart today and I see a car that has a F Joe Biden, you know, the whole back of it. And, you know, this person struggles, you know, but of course they believe that all of their woes are coming from somebody that's only been in president for 10 months.
Yeah. Last thing I want to get to, and Laura, this is the moment where it's open enrollment period for the ACA. Give the spiel for this moment in time. How do we sign up? What can people do? You know, what's going on?
Yes. So this is open enrollment time. Whether you have your insurance through your employer or Medicare or the ACA, take a look at your plans and sign up for next year. The deadline for the ACA is January 15th. But if you want coverage starting in January, then the deadline for most states is December 15th. So you should go to healthcare.gov and look through your options today. And if you have questions about healthcare and health insurance, I have a new show on Mondays at 4:00 Eastern where we tackle your healthcare questions and we give you answers from experts.
Good stuff. And you know, if the website again was?
Oh, act.tv. So if you look for act.tv on social media, on YouTube, on Roku, 4:00 Eastern on Mondays.
And now is the open enrollment period. Make sure you check out that. And it's still healthcare.gov, right?
Yes.
Trump didn't get to destroy that completely. We're still doing that, right?
He tried. He failed.
Good stuff. Guys, I appreciate the time. Great talking with you. I hope you'll come back again next week. Rich Ojeda from No Dems Left Behind. Make sure you check out the work that they do. Sarah Burris, reporter over at RawStory, and Laura Packard from Healthcare Voters. Guys, thanks so much. I appreciate the time.
Have a good weekend.
Again, if you have any thoughts, any comments, any questions, things that came up during this show, let me know. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If there are topics you want to hear discussed, debated, let me know as well. If you missed any of today's program, thericksmithshow.com. That's where you go to get the podcast, the Rick Smith Show app on the smartphone. Take the program on the go wherever you go. And as always, email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Make sure you follow us on Twitter @RickSmithShow. Do the Facebook thing. We're there as well. YouTube, subscribe, like, all of that. We're everywhere and then some. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The